안녕하세요.
The sun shone brightly through the large windows, flooding the expansive office with intense light. The strong rays reflected off the elegant surfaces, highlighting the imposing atmosphere within. Kang Ji-hoon sat attentively, his concentrated expression mirroring the immense responsibilities he'd borne since his father's unexpected death, after which he inherited the company. Known for his aloof and enigmatic demeanor, Ji-hoon carried an aura that both intimidated and fascinated those around him. In a small cafe area within the same building, Park Ha-yoon carefully prepared a tray of tea. She moved methodically, making sure everything was perfectly arranged. Though young, Ha-yoon had already shouldered significant burdens, especially after her mother fell seriously ill, leaving her family entirely dependent upon her earnings. Determined and hard-working, she was committed to making a good impression on her first day at work. As Ha-eun quietly entered Ji-hoon's spacious and elegantly furnished office, their eyes briefly met. For one fleeting instant, both were caught in an intrigued, intense gaze. Ha-yoon felt her heartbeat quicken and quickly lowered her eyes, slightly embarrassed, yet strangely moved by the exchange. "Mr. Kang, your tea," she said softly, placing the tray carefully on the table in front of him. Ji-hoon watched her intently, noticing the gentle and graceful way she served his tea. Something about this young woman struck him as unusual, something he couldn't quite place. Curiosity prompted him to ask softly, "Are you new here?" "Yes, sir. I started today. I promise to give it my all." "Ha," replied respectfully, her voice steady despite the nervousness fluttering within her chest. Ji-hoon nodded slowly, his eyes lingering thoughtfully on her movements as she quickly finished serving the tea. Ha-yoon, aware of his penetrating gaze, felt her hands trembling slightly. She didn't fully understand why this brief interaction seemed significant. As she turned to leave the office, she took a deep breath to calm her racing emotions, puzzled by how deeply that brief interaction had affected her. Once outside his office, Ha-eun leaned against the wall, breathing deeply in an attempt to calm her turbulent emotions. She knew something important had occurred in those few seconds. Something about that brief encounter strongly suggested their destinies had unexpectedly intertwined. Inside his office, Ji-hoon continued, staring thoughtfully at the closed door. A strange curiosity had taken hold of him, and he sensed, almost instinctively, that his life was about to change dramatically. Although he couldn't yet tell whether this change would be positive or negative, one thing was clear: Park Ha-eun had made a surprisingly deep impression on him. In the days that followed, Ha-eun's presence became a constant in June CEO's daily routine. He began noticing small details about her: the careful way she handled tasks, the gentle meticulousness she showed in every action, and her quiet dedication to each responsibility. He found himself observing the cautious manner she moved, arranged documents, and completed even simple tasks. Gradually, her presence brought him an inexplicable sense of tranquility. One sunny afternoon, while Ha-eun meticulously organized documents in the room adjacent to the main office, Jun Seo approached quietly, silently watching her for a moment, before finally deciding to break the comfortable silence that had settled between them. "You seem to genuinely enjoy your work," he said softly, interrupting the peaceful quiet between them for the first time. Startled, Ha-eun almost dropped the documents she was holding. She turned quickly, meeting his eyes and feeling an immediate flush of heat on her cheeks. "Oh, Mr. Min, yes, I really do. I believe any job done with dedication is worthwhile," Ha-eun replied earnestly, quickly composing herself. She offered a gentle smile, causing his heart to beat unexpectedly faster. "I admire that attitude," Jun Seo remarked softly, the intensity in his gaze deepening. For a brief moment, their eyes met in a meaningful exchange before she nervously looked away again. "Thank you," she responded quietly, her gaze dropping shyly to the floor. Before their conversation could progress further, and possibly reveal more about the emerging feelings between them, a sharp and authoritative voice echoed through the room, abruptly ending the delicate moment. "Jun Seo, we need to talk immediately," said Madame Min firmly, her tone leaving no room for argument. Jun Seo turned quickly, casting a fleeting apologetic glance at Ha-eun before following his mother out of the room. Ha-eun stood still, feeling a sudden tightness in her chest that she couldn't fully understand. That sudden interruption made her realize just how emotionally involved she was becoming with him. Outside, Madam Min regarded her son sternly. "Are you forgetting your responsibilities? You should remember our family's reputation and your obligations." "Who was that employee?" "Just a new hire, Mother. She is competent and dedicated." "Nothing more," replied Jun Seo calmly, despite the internal turmoil he felt. Madame Min narrowed her eyes. "I certainly hope that's the case. Remember the family name. Don't let trivial distractions derail you." Ha-eun remained frozen in the same spot, her heart tightening inexplicably. The abrupt interruption and the tense conversation she'd overheard made her realize just how emotionally entangled she had become with this complicated situation. Meanwhile, standing in the hallway, Jun Seo took a deep breath, feeling an uncomfortable conflict within him. He knew he shouldn't allow emotions to cloud his judgment. Yet, he couldn't ignore the connection forming between himself and Ha-eun. Ha-eun stood quietly in the room, feeling a heaviness in her chest she couldn't fully understand. That sudden interruption made her acutely aware of how emotionally involved she had become. She didn't fully comprehend the situation, but one thing was clear: that conversation had carried more tension than usual, suggesting something complicated and unpredictable was about to happen in their lives. Since that day, Ha-eun had begun to notice a cautious distance coming from Jun Seo. Nevertheless, she continued performing her duties with dedication, even though her heart felt heavy with the sense that something had changed between them. One afternoon, while Ha-eun carefully carried out her tasks, organizing an assortment of documents in the adjacent office, Jun Seo quietly approached her. Observing her from behind, he hesitated for a moment, before finally breaking the cautious silence that had settled between them. "Miss Park, may I have a word?" he asked gently, his voice unusually hesitant. Ha-eun turned slowly, both surprised and unsure about the unfamiliar tone in his voice. "Of course, Mr. Min. Has something happened?" she asked softly, doing her best to hide her nervousness. Jun Seo paused again before responding, taking a deep breath as though gathering courage. "I wanted to apologize if I've seemed distant lately. There's been a lot on my mind," he admitted honestly. She regarded him gently, noticing the troubled look in his eyes. "I understand, Mr. Min. Has something happened?" Jun Seo took another deep breath, clearly struggling to open up. "There are many expectations placed upon mere responsibilities toward the company, my family. It's complicated." Ha-eun nodded slowly, her expression sincere and compassionate. "I understand that your responsibilities and burdens are significant, Mr. Min. I just want you to know that I'll always wish for your happiness, no matter what happens," she said earnestly, her eyes shining with genuine emotion. Her heartfelt words deeply affected Jun Seo. For a moment, he felt his resolve soften, as if a burden had been momentarily lifted from his shoulders. He realized, perhaps clearly for the first time, that what he felt toward her went beyond mere gratitude or curiosity. Yet before their conversation could deepen further, the sound of Ha-eun's phone interrupted them abruptly. She quickly answered, and as she listened, her face turned pale. Jun Seo watched her anxiously, sensing immediately that something serious had happened. Ha-eun ended the call with trembling hands, her eyes filled with unshed tears. Jun Seo immediately stepped closer, concern evident in his gaze. "Is everything all right, Ha-eun?" he asked, his voice firm yet gentle, laced with worry. "My mother," she collapsed. "She's in the hospital." Ha-eun answered, struggling to hold back the tears threatening to fall. Without hesitation, Jun Seo responded with unwavering certainty. "I'll take you there." Although hesitant, Ha-eun nodded briefly. The ride to the hospital was filled with heavy silence, broken only by the sound of Ha-eun's nervous breathing. The tension in the air was palpable, and Jun Seo could feel her distress. Upon their arrival, Jun Seo remained by her side, offering silent support until the doctor finally approached with reassuring news her mother was stable. As they sat in the waiting area, an icy voice suddenly shattered the fragile quiet. "So this is where you are, son?" It was Soo-jin, standing with Jun Seo's older brother, Min Tae-hyuk, whose rigid expression reflected clear disapproval. "Mother, Tae-hyuk, "This is not the time," Junseo responded firmly, instinctively shifting his stance to subtly shield Ha-yoon. "You do realize this kind of involvement is unacceptable for our family, don't you?" Tae-hok's voice carried an edge of provocation, as if daring Junseo to challenge him. Junseo met his brother's gaze with unwavering determination. "My personal life is not up for discussion right now. Please respect this moment." Soo-jin cast a piercing look at Ha-yoon before turning away, leaving alongside Tae-yuk. Even as their footsteps faded, the tension lingered heavily in the air. Ha-yoon lowered her gaze, guilt tightening in her chest. Maybe it would be best if I stepped away," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "Don't," Junseo replied instantly, his voice firm with conviction. His intense gaze locked onto hers, radiating reassurance and determination. "This is not your fault." In that moment, they both understood no matter how difficult the road ahead, they would have to face these challenges together. In the days that followed, Junseo took firm steps to protect Ha-yoon from both his family's and the company's pressures. He made the decision to confront his mother and brother directly, making it clear that he would no longer tolerate any interference in his personal life. "I'm in love with Ha-yoon, and nothing you say will change that," he declared firmly during a private meeting with Soo-jin and Tae-yuk in the main office of Shin Corporation. "You're willing to risk everything for a mere employee?" Soo-jin asked in disbelief, her tone laced with clear disapproval. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes for my happiness and for hers. If necessary, I'll step down from the presidency," Junseo responded, his voice unwavering. His words had a profound impact on Soo-jin, who remained silent, visibly shaken by his resolve. Tae-hyuk attempted to argue further, but Junseo stood his ground, his determination unshaken. Meanwhile, Ha-yoon was discharged from the hospital, relieved that her mother had fully recovered, yet burdened with concerns about the uncertain future she faced with Junseo. When she reunited with him later that day, she felt a mixture of relief and apprehension upon seeing his exhausted, yet resolute expression. "Junseo, you didn't have to do all of this for me," she said gently, worried about the sacrifices he was making. "I did. I want to be with you, no matter what challenges we have to face," he replied, taking her hand in his touch firm yet tender, offering both reassurance and comfort. The unwavering determination in Junseo gaze made Ha-yoon finally understand the depth and sincerity of their feelings. They were ready to face any adversity together, for the true love they had found in each other. After overcoming countless obstacles and family pressures, Junseo finally balanced his position at Shin Corporation with his love for Ha-yoon. Even Soo-jin and Tae-yuk realized they couldn't control his happiness and chose to support him. At sunset, in a beautiful garden, Junseo and Ha-yoon exchanged heartfelt vows, surrounded by loved ones. The golden glow bathed them in warmth as they gazed at each other with deep affection. "I promise to always stand by your side, protecting our love and building a future together," Junseo declared, his voice filled with emotion. "And I promise to be your refuge and partner, supporting you in every moment of our lives." Ha-yoon responded, her voice trembling with sincerity. Applause and tears of joy filled the air. Even Soo-jin, despite her pride, embraced Ha-yoon warmly, finally accepting her as family. Months later, Junseo and Ha-yoon stood side by side, their hands clasped as they gazed at the ultrasound screen. The tiny heartbeat of their first child filled them with indescribable joy. Deep in their hearts, they knew every challenge had been worth it. They had built a life founded on love, respect, and lasting happiness.